welcome to Quirky Cooking Chats. I'm your host Jo Whitton, and this week we are diving into part 3 of the Working Through Anxiety series. I'm joined today by Jules Galloway, a friend of mine from, she used to be from Byron Bay, but now she's from the Sunshine Coast, which is also known as the Nunshine Coast these days due to the amount of rain. Jules has been in practice for, I think she said 16 years now, and she's a very knowledgeable and experienced naturopath and practitioner. She's all about the holistic viewpoint of health, functional medicine, integrative nutrition, all of this kind of thing. And I've found her advice over the years really helpful. Jules talks about how she often has clients who present with really low energy, maybe they have a chronic illness or are really struggling with anxiety and depression. And she said that she finds, especially now that COVID is sort of slowing down, it's almost like there's a lot more people coming out of the woodwork and saying, I need help with anxiety and depression. So this is a really interesting episode. I hope you'll listen right to the end because there's so many nuggets of gold in this podcast. I learned some things that were sort of a bit fuzzy for me and I hadn't quite understood, and Jules has made them clearer. So that's been very helpful. Thank you, Jules. So if you're struggling with your health, your energy, adrenal fatigue, chronic illness, anxiety, depression, getting over COVID, have a listen to this podcast because it's going to be helpful for all of these kind of situations. And I think you'll find that it'll give you some quality action steps that you can begin taking in with your own health. And if you want to contact Jules about an appointment, her website is below. So have a listen, enjoy, and I hope that it really helps. Welcome, Jules, my good friend that I haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah, thanks COVID for ruining the relationship.
I think the last time we were eating ice cream together in remember that ice cream? That cultured ice cream? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wall is a genius.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a while.
It really has. Yeah. So it's good to see you, even if it's just the two-dimensional version of you.
That's true. Just recently we had a online summit and you spoke about anxiety, and I thought you'd be perfect to do part 3 of the anxiety podcast because obviously you're a naturopath and you deal with this kind of thing all the time, but I thought your talk was really good on Summit. So you begin wherever you think is important and just tell us from a naturopath viewpoint, you know, what people can do to really reduce anxiety, what it's caused by, all of that kind of thing. And I'm just going to let you go for it and ask questions as we go.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I might need a bit of coaching because I don't have a slideshow in front of me.
No, we don't need a slideshow. We can talk all day.
No, we're just going to wing it. That's my happy place. All right. So, look, there's so many different types of anxiety as well, so it's kind of really hard to know where to start. But I guess the first thing to say is how much anxiety has gone up as a whole since COVID began.
Yeah.
Like the last 2.5 years in my practice, I've just seen it skyrocket, and it's been really distressing, you know, for my patients and as a practitioner to see the effect of all the world events and what that's done to people. And you know, we can't change what's happened. We can't go back and press a button and have a different outcome. But you know, the lockdowns, the inability to see and connect with family, the homeschooling for all the mums out there, like
that's stressful. Been there.
Yeah, and even just the working from home and the isolation and that lack of human connection, and we're seeing less exercise and, like, you know, poor food choices. There's so many things going on, and a lot of emotional eating, like we're all guilty of that. And so and maybe some emotional drinking. So it was the perfect storm. There were so many things going on that were working against us. It's no wonder that we started to see an epidemic of both anxiety and depression. And it's only now that I'm starting to see a lot of, I was just saying off camera before with you that they're only just starting to come back now. So it's funny. It's like someone pressed a button in my clinic on Anzac Day and then people started booking in again. So there's been so much going on in the world that we've been in that just keep
survival mode.
Survival, keep your head above water mode. And now that we've reached our new normal, whatever that is, yeah, it feels anything but normal to me, honestly. Nothing feels normal yet. Everything still feels a bit up in the air. And then you throw in wars in Ukraine and other world events and uncertainty and fear, and we're glued to the news, and all of these things have just all happened and they're coming to a peak. But it's only now that I'm starting to really see the fallout in terms of people showing up in my practice with like some pretty serious anxiety stuff. We're talking to the point of panic attacks and to the point where it's causing a lot of problems in their lives, like it's stopping them from wanting to have a social life or do things, and that's debilitating, and that's not okay. We need to sort that out. Like, we can't live like this.
Yeah, I think even for those who probably felt like they coped okay during all the COVID time, we got so used to being isolated from everyone, and it's almost like the anxiety is kicking in now of getting back into everyday life. Like for me, all the thinking of doing all the traveling and seminars and all the busy things that I used to do, it just makes me go, I can't do it yet.
Absolutely.
So, it can be anxiety about COVID, or it could be anxiety about getting back into the busy life that we were leading. There's so many variables.
We're definitely faced with an opportunity right now. Like, this is a golden time to reassess everything before we throw ourselves back into it. And I think there's no I think about it. I'm already seeing a lot of women throwing themselves back into their life the way that it was before COVID. And maybe that's why they're all just starting to come back to me now feeling really off, because they're going back to the life they had, and they're realizing that life wasn't good for them to begin with.
Exactly.
So I feel like there's also that I saw this video footage, this like a YouTube video a few years ago, where they took I think they were beagles or something. They took these beautiful dogs that had been used for medical experiments, and they were I know it was awful. They're releasing them out into a big yard for the first time. So they'd always been in little cages, and someone rescued them, which was wonderful. And they released these dogs. But when they opened the crates, these little cages, to let them out into this beautiful big green yard, the dogs were all like, and they had to be coaxed out. So it's like, look, you've got all this abundance and this greenery in the big wide world, and it's amazing, and this is how you're meant to live, and this is wonderful. And the dogs were like, I don't know. Yeah. And I feel like there's a bit of that going on.
I feel like that too. Yeah.
It's like, look, you can travel anywhere you want. It's like, okay,
I'm scared too. I might get stuck over there.
Something might happen. So feel like, even when we're talking about that, I don't know about you, but I could feel it here. So like, that's what we're carrying around with us at the moment. And I'm seeing this flow-on effect in clinic where it's affecting parts of the body that we don't immediately connect with anxiety. Well, unless you're a naturopath, then we know this. But then we've had it drilled into us for many years. But then, digestive issues, hormonal issues, thyroid issues, all of that stuff is on the rise in a lot of naturopathic practices right now, because that's the flow-on effect from all the stress and anxiety that's been happening upstream in our lives for a while. So there's more than just anxiety itself going on. It's all these ways that it's manifesting in our bodies as well.
Yeah. that's one thing that we found in our family when we started to really deal with it's kind of like a vicious circle, isn't it? Because you've got the anxiety and stress and all of the crazy lifestyle stuff affecting your health. But then you've also got the, say, gut health affecting how you feel. So
this
if you could talk to us
street.
a bit about, if you could talk to us a bit about, how anxiety affects your gut health and how you can improve your gut health to improve anxiety and why that works, that would be great.
I've been down this rabbit hole so much over the last few weeks because I actually have a couple of speaking gigs coming up that are
perfect
speaking to practitioners, like clinical speaking gigs. And there's the first one I'm doing is actually talking about the gut-brain connection and the way that both are influencing the other. So we used to, as naturopaths, we always knew that what was going in your gut, going on down there in your gut, was affecting your brain and things like neurotransmitter balance, etc. But we didn't know how to prove it. And then in the last sort of 10 to 15 years, along came science and caught up with what we already knew was going on. But now we can prove it. And so we knew that there was this chat going on between the gut and the brain. But now we're starting to also see the science that's connecting the other part of the loop, where the brain is also affecting the gut. And that's what we've seen a lot of in the last few years with this ongoing level of stress that people have not necessarily experienced before, and the inability to go and take a holiday to get away from it. So what we've seen is this stress starting to affect gut function. And then when the gut function becomes worse, that affects the neurotransmitter balance, and then it leaves you more susceptible to not coping with stress. So stress actually down-regulates digestive secretions. So if you're stressed and you're producing stress hormones, say like cortisol, that actually starts this cascade in the body where it sends a message to tell your gut to make less of some secretions. And then so you're not digesting your food as well as you should be. But now we also know that stress is also affecting other other parts as well. So there's this stuff called secretory IgA, which we make in the little mucosal cells down there in our gut. And those little mucosal cells make secretory IgA, and secretory IgA actually protects us. It's part of our protective mechanism and our immune system to protect us from incoming pathogens. So if you've got low secretory IgA, you're more susceptible to things like bacterial infections and parasites. So then the stress, lower secretory IgA, higher incidence of bacterial and infections and parasites. You get a bacterial infection or a parasite, as you know all too well, that will then affect what's going on in the brain 100%, 100%. And so then, like every naturopath ever, if you come to them with anxiety, they are looking for a gut problem. They might not tell you straight up, but we are all looking for a gut problem. Like every naturopath since the dawn of time will see an anxiety case and be looking for a gut issue. So, you've got this cascade that's going on, this issue that then's going on in the gut where you're more susceptible to having these problems. And then what happens is you're going to be more anxious. When you're more anxious, the next time a stressful event happens, your reaction to that stressful event is going to be not so great, right? So then you go round and round. You've got less resilience to the stressful event. And when the stress happens, you become more anxious more quickly. And then that causes more gut issues. And round we go. And here 2.5 years later, these are the people that are starting to really have like some challenges going on. And so also when you've got those gut issues going on, that's affecting other parts of the body as well. It's affecting your immune system. It's affecting your thyroid. It can spark autoimmune diseases, etc. It can increase inflammation. So as soon as the gut's not right, all these other parts of the body, all these other systems in the body start joining the party as well. And then you start to see issues in different parts of the person that they just thought were different problems. Oh yeah, I've got a thyroid problem. I've got a gut problem. I've got some joint pain, but no one's explained to them that it's actually all part of the
All
same
connected.
problem. Yeah.
And you start dealing with the root cause and things start to improve in all areas.
Yep. And then you start doing that chicken or the egg thing, like, did the
Mm-hmm.
stress cause the gut issue, or did the gut cause the stress issue? So which one's the root cause? Actually, it's both. Okay, I need to do both. So yeah, I think what we're starting to see a lot in, well, I know I am as a practitioner, I'm starting to see not one root cause, but I'm starting to see a little cluster of root causes all working together to cause the problem. And no, you go.
Like people come to me quite often because they know of my story, and they'll say, okay, what foods do I eat to be well and not have anxiety? I'm like, well, food will help, but it's never just one thing. It's always going to be such a wide variety of things that can be affecting anxiety, and also any other health issues. Like you can't, and what you're saying is basically it's a downward spiral. It's not just a vicious circle, it's a downward spiral. So you've got to start getting out of that, that downward spiral and start going up again. So what do you usually start to work on first with your clients?
If the client is anxious, we do need to bring them some symptomatic relief pretty quickly, right? Because first of all, they're anxious, we need to help them. But secondly, right, hot tip, if you don't help their anxiety, they don't come back for a second appointment, right?
True. And then things keep getting worse.
So even though someone comes to you with anxiety and you're like, oh yeah, this is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, we need to sort that out, that takes months to sort out, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just do that. You have to bring a person some symptomatic relief because they're hurting. So yeah, I usually look at herbs and supplements. Like, first of all, is there anything that looks to be low in this person that could exacerbate anxiety? So the first one that comes to mind would be magnesium. The second one would be zinc. Like, they're often low in my people. And sometimes they need super high doses to get them up, like the sort of doses that a practitioner would want to supervise a person taking. Even low iron. I'm starting to see a lot more information come out about how even low iron can lead to, an exacerbation in anxiety, which is really interesting because they were never kind of the poster child for the nutrients. Like, iron was always like, oh yeah, you'll be, breathless, anemic, all of those sorts of, but actually it can affect mental health as well. So there's a few nutrients.
Is it with iron, if you've got low iron, you feel quite exhausted. And I find when I've been sick and I'm exhausted, I will feel down and anxious and cry easily. And, you just feel like my life is hopeless. I'm never going to have energy again. And so then you start to get really teary.
Terrible.
Yes,
it's never going to be good.
I remember when I had COVID, I was so tired, and I remember sending my sister a message saying, I'm so dumb, I can't do anything well, and I had this big cry, and she's like, oh my goodness, you're sick, you're going to feel better. Like, okay. And I did. Within a few days I was fine.
We expect so much of ourselves, don't we? We get hit with this quite a serious virus, and we still expect so much of ourselves. No, I'm going to
keep working from bed.
Keep doing all the things. No, this isn't a sign from the universe that I need to rest. Shut up, universe.
I did rest a lot. I did rest a lot, but I just got tired of resting.
But look, the first thing I do when I see someone who's anxious, I'm like, okay, like, are there some other, and I'll be asking questions around their symptoms. So if I think their magnesium might be low, I might be asking them about whether they get headaches or muscle cramps or pains or those sorts of things, or whether they're constipated. Like, I'm looking for other signs of magnesium deficiency. Sometimes with zinc, if I suspect that they're low in zinc, I might even do a blood test, because that's like a really easy blood test to knock out. It costs about sort of $90 to $100, and then you get your answer on paper. So sometimes I don't even go off symptoms. Same with iron, like, just go and get an iron test, So I usually assess some of those key nutrients, even things like vitamin D, iodine, those sorts of things. And then I start working with herbs. So if a person's anxious and we need some symptomatic relief, there's kind of two things I'm looking at. One is the anxiety during the day? And the second one is, are you sleeping? Right? So if you've got anxiety throughout the day, Like I might give you a herbal formula that you take 2 or 3 times during the day. If it's just that it's happening at night and you're not sleeping, then I might give you a sleep mix, like or something that's a little bit heavier, or something that, you know, helps to knock you out a little bit more. Like I said, this is good symptomatic relief. You don't want to have to rely on
it's not long term.
No. But you do want, like, if a person's sleeping, they're healing. So you want to get them that some runs on the board. If they're anxious throughout the day and they're having trouble getting to sleep, then I might give them one herb during the day and then give them a sleep mix at night. So that's the symptomatic stuff out of the way. Once that's done and that part of the plan is done, the next thing we do is I'm looking for the underlying drivers or causes, what you were saying, root cause. So then we're like looking gut, thyroid, biotoxin exposure, mold. We were just talking before
that was a big one in our family.
Yeah, and even I'm on the Sunshine Coast, and
it's not very sunny.
I think they've renamed it the Nunshine Coast at the moment. Honestly, no. It really is. And all down through northern New South Wales, of course. And I've got clients as far south as Wollongong who are experiencing that layer of mildew and mold on their leather goods and belongings when they open their closet. They're like, we've never had this before. And I'm like, we're in the subtropics. We get this every wet season. Like, welcome to our party.
You have to have a major, they call it a spring clean. Well, we have a wet season clean before and after.
Yep, exactly. And you just you start throwing out leather goods because it gets boring cleaning them every week. So that's happening further down into the southern parts of Australia where they've never seen this before. Like Sydney's had the wettest summer ever, and they've got this high humidity going on as well, and they're starting to have mold issues as well. So these are the sorts of underlying drivers. So, I will bang on about the gut till the cows come home, but it's not just gut. Like there are definitely other root causes and other underlying drivers that I'll also be looking for. But gut, thyroid, female hormones, biotoxins, that's like 90% of my practice.
So when someone first presents with these kind of symptoms, they would feel really overwhelmed knowing that it could be so many different things. So where could someone start with one thing, and then will that help to reduce symptoms?
This is where seeing a good practitioner becomes gold, because I've been in practice for a really long time. When you've been in practice for a really long time.
How many years now?
I think I'm into my 16th year.
It's amazing.
I was trying to figure it out the other day. I can't count. But I started at the start of 2006 because I finished college at the end of 2005. And I've done lots of different jobs since then, but it's always been naturopathic in some way. So I've done corporate and supplement companies and things as well. But it's been, I've been in this world for 20 years now, if you include the 4 years that I was studying at uni and working in health foods. So 2 decades.
Well done.
Yeah. And what happens as a practitioner when you get to that point is you will often start to see more complex cases rock up. And so you'll start to get the people who say, I've been to 3 other naturopaths, or I've been to 1 naturopath, an acupuncturist, and 3 GPs. And even
specialists.
And an endocrinologist and a gastroenterologist, and no one can find anything wrong with me, and all my test results are fine. That's what I will often see. But I'm still tired, I'm still anxious, and the anxiety meds don't work terribly well, and I'm like, no pressure. But that's what happens once you've been a practitioner for a while. So those people will often have a lot of overwhelm and quite a complex backstory. And when you sit down in practice with someone like that and you take the case, I'm actually putting everything into a functional medicine style timeline. So it's like, okay, what year did you develop that thyroid issue? what was going on in your life the year before that? Ah, your dad died. Okay, was that traumatic
interesting.
for you? Okay, and tell me, have you ever lived in a moldy house? Oh, okay, 2 years before your dad passed away. All right, how long were you in that house for? All of this is going into a timeline.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is all those underlying drivers and root causes, but also we're looking for what's called a never been well since point. And there'll always be one, but it might be as far back as 6 days old when they ended up in hospital with some sort of infection and had antibiotics. Like, you just never know. You have to keep asking and keep digging. Or it might be the 6 bouts of tonsillitis they had in their first year of uni, followed by glandular fever, followed by a gut issue. Never been well since point. And so that's the biggest root cause. But then you'll find all these other little root causes and drivers along the way as well. So you don't necessarily go after that big never been well since cause straight away, but you need to consider it. And often it will be some sort of gut issue and some sort of stress, life stress, right next to each other.
Right.
So it'll be like, oh yeah, you know, we had that death in the family, but I'd already just gotten over having a parasite and 2 rounds of antibiotics to get rid of the parasite. You know what I mean? Like, you'll often see the stress and the gut stuff like really close to each other. And so then imagine fast forward to the last few years. And what have you got with COVID? Lots of stress. And if anyone's going into that with any sort of sniff of a gut issue,
sniff of a gut issue,
just a little whiff of a gut issue, right? What do you got? You've got that perfect storm again. And what were we? Okay, I'll say we collectively, right? They're not all of us, okay. But what were we collectively as Australians doing in that first lockdown? We collectively were baking. There was this big sourdough trend. There was, and it's like, oh, well, you know, I know that I don't do well on gluten, but it's sourdough. And I've read, you know, 3 articles.
And it's comfort food.
Yes. And I saw a YouTube video saying that it's okay, like sourdough's fine. And I'm like, is it fine for you though? I know it's the best quality bread that you can buy, but is your gut in a place where you can tolerate that right now? Not just that, banana bread.
That was big.
Bread, right? Pies, like every second person I know is baking some sort of pie. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, comfort food.
Yeah.
Sugar, carbs, dairy,
wine for some.
Guilty.
I don't drink, but I'm sure I do the sugar too much.
The place I was living at the time in Byron Bay, we had a bunch of townhouses right next to each other, and each of us had a balcony, and we worked out that we could actually pass the bottle of wine between the balconies.
So funny.
Sanitized, of course, but we were having these balcony parties on Friday afternoon.
Well, that's nice. You got to actually spend time with people.
Close enough, you know, couldn't hug them, but they were just there. But like, so think about that and what that does to people, and what does that do to your gut? And
well, some people won't actually know what that physically does to your gut. Like, for instance, sugar. How does that affect, if you get a hit of sugar, how does that affect immunity and gut health?
It's going to turn up the heat on any whiff of a gut issue that you already have. So if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it will feed it. If you have a parasite or large intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it will feed it. If you've got candida in the gut, which, you know, in small amounts is considered a commensal, like it's meant to be there, but in large amounts, it's called SIFO now, small intestinal fungal overgrowth. So it will feed it. So there's, and sugar is like, when your blood sugar goes up, it changes everything. Like, your body creates more insulin, you have these blood sugar ups and downs. When you have these blood sugar ups and downs, you will then release more cortisol into your system. If you release more cortisol into your system, I think you know me well enough to know that I'm going to say that lots of not very great things are going to happen as a cascade from there. So yeah, like sugar, I know I like a treat too. Right? Like, we all do, but it's when you're doing it every day it's when you're doing it to make yourself feel something warm and fuzzy because there's so much going wrong in your world that you start to, if you're emotional eating, and we have all done it, but you start to gloss over the symptoms that are coming up. Oh, you get a bit bloated, but everyone gets a bit bloated, right? Bloating's normal. Okay, bloating's not normal. bloating, I put bloating in the same category as things like asthma, eczema, hay fever, right? These things are not normal. They are common, right? So we have to start replacing the word normal with common. Bloating is common, right? So many of us get it. Like I get it when I start to eat outside the plan as well that I have for myself. Like if I have too many wines, because wine's basically just sugar, right? Same. Someone else might be eating chocolate. I was drinking the wine. But, if it makes you bloated, but it also makes your friends all bloated, everyone's like, oh, well,
it's normal.
A bit bloated. It's normal. It's not normal, people. It's common. So we've got to stop. I mean, I know there's these beautiful movements that are going on, and I have to be really careful how I tread here, with like body image movements and wanting to normalize different body shapes and types. And that's one area over here, and that's great, right? But if you're feeling uncomfortable, if you start the day with a flatter stomach and then you eat a specific food or drink a specific drink and your tummy becomes uncomfortable to the point where you need to undo your jeans or not wear jeans, right? And opt for, like, I was wearing
tracky pants.
Linen pants. No, I was in Byron Bay. I had like the
linen.
Nice.
Pants.
Yes, tracky pants.
I'm just in Malanda, so
Please.
tracky pants.
Yeah, no, I've got them too. But yeah, if you are having that discomfort going on, this isn't a body image thing. Like this isn't that is a separate kettle of fish. If you've got discomfort in your gut and it's blowing up and going back down and blowing up and going back down, like you do need to get that looked at, because that is not a normal gut function. All right. So I'm not concerned about how you look, anyone out there, but I'm very, very concerned to make sure your gut is running nicely, because if your gut is not running nicely, remember, gut-brain connection, gut immune system connection, gut thyroid connection, gut hormone connection, like it is running the show. So we need to give it that respect and attention that it deserves.
Yes, so good. So what else do you do when you're just first trying to work through anxiety? So we're working on the gut, diet, I guess, as well. Do you want to mention anything about how foods affect?
Balancing blood sugar is usually where I end up with most of my clients. When you, like I mentioned before, when you have those blood sugar ups and downs, it can release different hormones, different chemicals. Like you will have to release more insulin. More insulin will make you tired, and then the cortisol, the adrenaline might have to come out and play, and then you feel wired, and then you might feel more anxious. So if you're on this emotional roller coaster throughout the day because your blood sugar is going up and down, then there's going to be points in your day where you're more likely to feel anxious or depressed. So definitely normalizing the blood sugar, and that means having more protein with a meal and less starchy, fast burning, sugary, fluffy carbohydrates. So I simply get people to, and this is pretty much how you eat as well, I simply get people to eat a palm-sized portion of protein with every meal. Yep. And so for that, not the fingers, just the palm. But if you feel how thick that is, that's a couple of 100 grams. That's like 150 to 200 grams of like meat, fish, chicken. If you're veggie, then we might be looking at like things like chickpeas or tempeh or something like that.
Eggs.
Eggs, yep, absolutely. 2 eggs, some nuts and seeds, a little bit of goat's cheese, whatever is good for you. And that's 1/3 of your plate. So the other 2/3 of the plate are going to be slow burning carbohydrates. So I'm not low carb, I'm not anti-carb, but I am very pro slow burning carbs. So flick the white fluffy stuff to the curb for now. And what we're going to do is like colorful veggies. So green things, orange things, red things, purple things, like all the things. And slow burning is key. So, salad as well. if unless it's winter. If it's winter, don't do that. So
soup with lots of veggies.
Chicken soup with lots of veggies is like the staple in our house.
Same.
So that's honestly, I don't tell people to weigh their food. I don't tell people to measure their calories or their carbs or anything like that. I just get them to whack a decent amount of protein on the plate, make that 1/3 of the plate, make the other 2/3 something that burns slowly. And if they want to throw a bit of brown rice or quinoa or something like that on there, it's fine, as long as that's not the whole 2/3. Like, still try and get some good veg on there as well. Some healthy fats or oils on top, even if it's a splash of olive oil. And bada bing, your blood sugar is going to be so much happier. The other thing that helps to keep blood sugar stable is having the right bugs in there. So if we're weeding out any pathogens that shouldn't be there, or getting the balance of bacteria right, so knocking down that small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, getting the good bacteria in there as well. Like, we now know that there are whole groups of bacteria that are responsible for turning carbohydrates into energy when you eat them, and turning food in general into energy. So, like, if you've got the right bugs in there when you eat food, your blood sugar is also going to be more stable. So it all comes back to the gut. So yeah, look, when it comes to diet, I'm pretty simple. If you're going to have your more carby food, I usually tend to tell people to have it at night, because then at least if they feel tired from it, they're just going to go to bed anyway. 1 or 2 serves of fruit per day. Like, don't go off the fruit altogether unless you've got a gut issue that requires that of you. So it's pretty simple eating, but and also, like, I do the spoiler alert, if you come to see me, I'm probably going to take you off gluten and dairy for now if you've got a gut issue.
Like, that's usually the things that you are so reactive to when you're struggling with gut health.
A lot of people can get the dairy back, and that's awesome. And maybe smaller serves, not huge amounts like cheese on a pizza. Small amounts of like well-made cheese and well-made butter, and like using ghee is great. Like, I even a lot of my dairy intolerant people can handle butter and ghee straight away, as do I think a lot of people who follow you as well. So and look, it's not forever, because I do get a lot of people saying, I know I should have started coming to see you 6 months ago, but I knew you were going to take me off my favorite foods. So I've kind of just been putting it off, and now I'm sicker. And I'm like, yeah, but I am going to take you off those foods, but it's probably not going to be forever.
And the sooner you deal with it, the sooner you'll be back to eating a more full diet.
Yeah. And if you've got a happy brain, then you're going to be like not reaching for the comfort foods so much. So if we can get your neurotransmitters into balance, and your anxiety levels go down, and your depression lifts, and you start to feel good, like, that is going to affect your food choices, because then you're not reaching for the foods to fill this hole in your life, or to boost your mood, or to, I can often tell when someone's low in serotonin just from the foods that they're reaching for when they're tired or stressed. So like, it does change your food selections, and what it changes what you crave, or it might even stop you craving things at all. And keeping that blood sugar level stable really affects cravings too for most of my clients. So yeah, it's a different way of looking at things. It's almost like a reverse engineer way of looking at things, which is like, I know I'm going to take you off your favorite foods, but you're not going to crave them as much as you used to as well. So there is that light at the end of the tunnel too.
Yeah. Can I just ask the question that most people will be worrying about? What do you think of caffeine?
I love it. My husband was a barista for 6 years in Byron.
Oh, that's right.
And we have a very fancy coffee machine in our kitchen.
Ooh.
So yeah,
you go for the good stuff.
At the start of COVID, everyone else was buying tin tomatoes and toilet paper, and James drove 2 hours to like 3 towns over to go and buy like the last of the good coffee machines that was available.
That's hilarious.
And a grinder. And I'm like, oh, there's your priorities sorted, babe. So look, but honestly, in all seriousness, it's going to come down to how high are your anxiety levels? Are your adrenals under the pump? Are you inflamed? Are you very stressed? Are you sleeping? Because if you're not sleeping, it might take away your afternoon coffee. But I do try and find a balance with my clients where I say, look, have 1 coffee on a full stomach in the morning. So don't have it before breakfast, have it
Okay.
after breakfast, because if you have it on an empty stomach, it will often cause, like, you know, more stress hormones to be released. And
I never even thought of that. There you go. Because
Yeah.
a lot of, you know, intermittent fasting kind of people will do the butter coffee
Yes.
and nothing else for a while.
But all the good intermittent fasting studies that I've read were done on men.
Yes, I've
It's
heard that.
very difficult to find
Mm.
good data on the benefits for women when it's done in that way. And a lot of the intermittent fasting studies were not given butter coffee. This is something that people have introduced because they just want their coffee, because they want to wake up and get that feeling. Honestly, like, if you're going to look at the benefits of intermittent fasting with coffee, find me a study done on women and let's chat. Like, send me the link, people. Go send me the link, right? Please go and find it, because they're very hard to find. I'm sending you for a needle in a haystack, but if you find it, please send it through. So just be aware of that. Like, we are not, what does Kira Sutherland say? Women are not small men. She's a sports nutritionist, and she will always say a lot of sports nutrition studies are done on men. And she goes, women are not small men. So just be very aware of that. We have different hormones, we have different thyroid situations. Like, there's a lot going on with us. So please, I would say,
we're complicated.
Have it after food. We are very complicated. But that's part of the charm. So
that's right.
Yeah, please go and have your coffee, have a single shot in the morning after some food, and then don't have any after about 2 p.m. And that would be a really good start. Just try and cut down the amount of shots that you have. If you're having 3 or 4 shots in a day, that's probably too many. I'd be asking why you need that level of energy, because, by the way, it's not energy, it's just coffee.
So it could be masking something.
Real energy comes from somewhere else. So yeah, definitely, again, if you're relying on that stuff to get you through in the same way that people are relying on sugar at 3 p.m, I would be looking at that blood sugar. Are you having enough protein with each meal? Is your blood sugar stable? Like, let's backtrack. Let's have a look at everything that you're eating and find a way to keep things in more balance, so that then you can enjoy your coffee rather than be a slave to it.
Love it. That's really good advice. Thank you. So action steps. Stabilize your blood sugars. Keep carbs and sugars low, the simple carbs anyway. But have the long lasting, what did you call them?
Slow burning
carbs with protein and fats. So can I ask you one more question? What do you recommend for people if they feel like they need a snack to help keep everything level?
If you need a snack to keep everything more level, the first thing I would say is, what are you eating at your main meal before that? Because I bet you, if you're in a hole and you need a snack, it's because your blood sugar has dropped. If your blood sugar has dropped, we need to go back to your previous meal and go, was it 1/3 protein? Did it have slow burning carbs? Did something white, fluffy and starchy or sugary creep in there that wasn't meant to? Was it a stir fry with some hidden sugar in the sauce? Like, what's going on here? And go back and have a look at that. Because if you're in the hole and you're expecting a healthy snack to pull you out of that hole, it's not going to work, because once you're in that hole, the only thing that pulls you out is sugar, and it pulls you out for like half an hour and then you're more in the hole again. So again, with that blood sugar roller coaster, I would be like, okay, let's see what you ate today. Where did the balance become unstuck a little bit? How can we tighten that up and make it better for you? And everyone's tipping point is going to be different as well. Like, some people can get away with a piece of bread at lunch. Some people need to leave their bread for dinner time, because it does cause that problem. And again, that might come down to your individual gut bugs or other things going on in the body as well. Like, whether you whether you tend to put out more insulin than other people when you eat these things. There's a lot going on. So yeah, if someone's asking about snacks, I'm always like, we don't need to talk about snacks. We need to talk about your lunch. Or if you're snacking mid-morning, we need to talk about your breakfast. But look, nuts and seeds, if you can tolerate cheese, then great. Or if you can tolerate goat's cheese, great. Veggie sticks and hummus is my massive go-to. I tend to try and not reach for fast-burning carbohydrates like rice crackers and things. because again, you're just going to end up on that roller coaster.
It's not doing anything.
And you're going to have cravings, and then it never ends well. So nuts and seeds, like anything that's kind of proteiny. I often keep boiled eggs in the fridge door.
Same.
Yeah, all of those sorts of things are great. Even like a little mini smoothie or something might get you through with a bit of, nut butter, or I put raw cashews in my smoothie and blend it up in the Thermomix that I now own. Finally, I know I'm late to the party.
I'm part of the cult.
I resisted for so long. I was like, you're a cult. You're all a cult. And then I joined the cult. So, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So
I'm sure you're very balanced.
Oh,
or not.
I love it.
So, it's very handy.
So, look, high protein snacks are key. But if you're expecting them to pull you out of the funk that you're in, they're not going to, because the funk was caused by the last meal being not so balanced.
Go have a good meal.
Try to not go in the hole in the first place. I know it's easier said than done, but just every time you feel like you're really craving food, or really tired, or grumpy, or sleepy, or just sapped, or even anxious, because sometimes when we fall into that blood sugar hole, it results in anxiety. When you're in that place, just take a deep breath and have a think. What have I eaten today? Was it balanced? If it wasn't, well, you know what to do next time. Don't be too hard on yourself. Go have whatever you need to have to get through the rest of the day, but make sure it registers in your mind. Okay, next time we'll make some better choices and see if we can keep things more even, because it might not be the most exciting lunch of your life, but if it stops you falling into that hole at 3 p.m, you're going to be so much happier.
This sort of comes a full circle to what I was talking about in the past 2 podcasts. So if you've missed those ones, you might want to go back and have a listen. But being organized so that you've got your meals planned, having, thinking about your dinner the night before, all of these things help to create an environment where you're more stable, you're well nourished, your gut is healthy, you are setting yourself up for a better mood and less anxiety. So it's the food, it's the environment, it's the mindset, it's all these things. So thank you so much for rounding that all off for us, Jules. That was really helpful. And
you're very welcome.
I'm just like gonna take notes and share this everywhere, because it was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone watching this finds it helpful too, because I know we all need as much help as we can get right now.
Yeah. Well, you have an awesome weekend, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere soon.
Yes, in real life.
Yes. Big
Excellent.
hugs.
Big hugs to you too. Thanks so much, Jo, and thank you for everything you do too.
Thank you. All right. And if anyone wants to contact Jules through her practice, how do they get hold of you?
You can simply go to my website at julesgalloway.com, and everything you need you'll find from there.
And I'll put the link below. Okay. Thanks, Jules. Bye.
Bye.